Hi there, it's Roseanne here from Country Chic Paint. As you might know from experience, getting paint to stick to smooth surfaces like glass and metal can be tricky. In this video, I'll give you some tips for getting great adhesion every time, so stay tuned. The reason it can be difficult for paint to adhere to surfaces like glass and metal is that they are very non-porous, so there isn't a whole lot for the paint to grip onto. There are a few things you can do to help though. Today I'm going to paint and distress some mason jars so I can show you some of our tips and tricks for distressing without causing the paint to peel off. Today I'll be using a 120 grit sanding sponge, synthetic bristle brushes, some of our All-in-One Decor Paint in the colors Creme Brulee and Vintage Cupcake, as well as some natural soap. For glass and metal, we always recommend cleaning the surface before you start painting. I'm going to use warm water and a natural soap to make sure there are no contaminants or oil that could prevent the paint from sticking to my mason jars. Make sure you choose a soap that won't leave any residue behind. After cleaning with soap and water, it's always smart to use a rag with just water to give it a final wipe down. Before you go on to the next step, you want to make sure that your glass jar is completely dry. Once your project is fully dry, it's also a good idea to give it a light scuff sanding with coarse grit sandpaper or a sanding block to give your surface a bit more texture that the paint can grip onto. Be sure to remove any dust this creates before you move on to the next step. If you're working on a large piece, it's definitely a good idea to do a scratch test before you proceed. Paint a small 2x2 inch square and leave it for a few days to cure. Then you can give it a scratch with your fingernail to see if the paint has adhered well or if it peels off. For some projects, it might be better to use a primer before you paint, so your beautiful finish will last for years to come. For smaller projects like mason jars, I wouldn't recommend using a primer. Our All-in-One Decor Paint has great adhesive properties, even better than our talc-based paint. So it's definitely my go-to paint for tricky surfaces. You always want to make sure you shake and stir your paint before you dip your paintbrush in. I'm going to apply one thin coat over my whole jar. You don't want to put on too thick of a coat or it's going to take a long time to cure and it will not adhere as well as one thin coat. Once your first coat is dry, which is probably about 1 to 2 hours, you can apply a second coat if you'd like. As you can see, I'm getting pretty good coverage with just a single coat of paint, so I'm not going to worry about adding a second coat. You'll notice that some of this depends on the color that you have picked for your jars. Once your first coat is fully dry, after about 1 to 2 hours or so, you can add a second coat if necessary. But I'm quite liking the coverage that I'm getting with just a single coat, so I'm just going to leave it like that. If you're going to distress metal or glass, it's best to give it a few days to fully cure before you start distressing. This will give it a chance to really stick to your piece so that it will only come off in the places you want it to distress. These jars were painted a few days ago, so they are ready to be distressed. I'm going to use my 120 grit sanding block and I'm just going to start rubbing away gently on the raised details of my jar. I wouldn't recommend using a 2-layer distressing method on glass or metal, or using a wet rag for distressing. Glass and metal lend themselves best for distressing with sandpaper with a single color of paint. Now, to seal your work, it's a great idea to use our Tough Coat. It will make your piece very durable and it will help to seal in the paint. If you'd like to learn more about how to apply Tough Coat, or if you'd like some other tips on how to distress using sandpaper, click the links available in the description below this video. If you liked this video, please leave us a comment and click the like button. We also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get a notification when new tutorials come out. To find out more about our products and where you can buy them, click the website link on your screen now or in the description below this video. Thank you so much for watching and happy painting!